Welcome to tonight's 5 on 5. We are pleased to welcome back Senator Ron Wyden. Senator, it is nice to have you again.
Thank you.
I want to talk first why you were here over the weekend. You attended and welcomed home nearly 300 Oregon Army National Guard soldiers who returned from Afghanistan. Give us an idea of what it was like to attend that event and why it's important for you to attend those events as well.
It's such an honor to be with the soldiers and their families. A lot of these soldiers are on their second, third, and fourth tour. And one of the reasons I want to come is it can be a real transition coming home. If you're going from, say, holding a rifle in Afghanistan to holding a child in Southern Oregon, you've got to make sure, for example, that there are health care services and housing and education opportunities. And there are going to be some tough budget decisions in the fall in Washington, D.C. And my message was I'm going to put my priority on making sure those services are there for the soldiers and not some short-sighted Washington, D.C. budget decision.
Very well. One of the things that's been dominating the headlines here in Southern Oregon is wildfire season, and you recently introduced a bipartisan legislation to help fix how we actually fund fighting these wildfires. Explain to us a little bit about what that legislation is and what it actually where it stands right now.
It's urgently needed because, to me, it looks like this year we are going to get hit by what I call the terrible trifecta. This is very hot temperatures, real drought, and then very serious buildup on the forest floor. And in effect, what happens is, and this is what my legislation with Mike Crapo, the Republican from Idaho, deals with, is what happens is prevention, going in there and thinning, for example, gets short shrift. Then you have a lightning strike. All of a sudden, you've got an inferno on your hands, and when you don't have the resources to put the fire out, the bureaucracy borrows from the prevention fund, and the problem just gets worse and worse. So I worked with my colleagues in the Senate. A group of 11 of us, Democrats and Republicans, came together. We put it together in about 36 hours, and our group has said we are going to fix this problem in September. And what we're going to say is that the big fires you'd fight from the disaster fund, you wouldn't raid the prevention fund, and this actually gets you a very favorable budget score. You might have some expenses, for example, in terms of dealing with the big fires, but that would be countered by the fact you don't have so many fires because you aren't raiding the prevention fund.
Right, and then another piece of legislation you introduced with Republican Senator Marco Rubio is to block arms in Bahrain. Why is that? Well,
of course, the east coast of Saudi Arabia has always been an important area, and I just think that the human rights abuses by the government there have been way over the top. And Senator Rubio and I both feel, and I think this is a bipartisan view in the Senate, that part of our foreign policy has got to be about hearts and minds. It's got to be about key principles with respect to what our country stands for, and we are proposing to cut off aid until the government there goes along with the human rights requirements that have been proposed by an independent body.
All right, and one of the last things I want to talk to you about is the presidential election. We touched on it a little bit last time, established you're not going to run anytime soon. There are a lot of people, though, running, especially on the GOP side. There was the first
question
debate.
Is who is not running?
Yes, that is maybe even a better question. Did you have a chance to watch that debate, and what were your thoughts on that?
I was flying home at the exact time of the debate. I think I got in around 5 or 10 minutes after 8, and it was over. And obviously, you've got to be concerned when these campaigns just seem to get longer and longer. What I've tried to do is put the focus on the policy issues that are so important for our state. For example, all over Oregon, people are very concerned about the state of our roads and bridges. And I've said you can't have a big league economy with little league infrastructure. And I've introduced a bill modeled after Build America bonds where people could actually tap private investment for infrastructure. So I know the campaigns are going to dominate everything, and certainly there have been a lot of insults being thrown back and forth. I'm just going to try and focus on those areas that can help Oregon and particularly help our economy.
Right, and you were just talking about domination, and one of the candidates that really is kind of dominating the headlines, Donald Trump. Do you think he really has a chance in getting that nomination from the Republican Party, or is this kind of a flash and show type
I'm not
thing?
sure Republicans are just sitting on their seats waiting for me to tell them who ought to be nominated. I get get the feeling, though, that what happens with a lot of candidates, particularly ones that tend to be sensationalistic, is voters can sometimes flirt with them early on, no matter what political party they're in. But then when it gets down to being serious, who's going to actually be able to get results? Who's going to be able to take core principles that we care about and build a bipartisan coalition? Then voters start really making up their mind who can produce that.
Right. And over the past couple days, we've actually heard rumors that Vice President Biden is considering challenging Hillary Clinton for the Democratic side. Do you think that's a good idea?
I think Joe Biden, based on everything I've heard, is going to take the next few weeks to think it over. Of course, the passing of his son, who I knew was so painful. I think the family wants to spend some time together and think about the future.
All right. Senator, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
We'll see you soon. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Stay with us.